Welcome to the Fifth Trooper Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Fifth Trooper Podcast. My name is Jay Shalansky, and joining me today, I have two people. One raccoon, Evan Bulris.
Hey, how's it going?
And one man, the myth, the legend, Bushfacts, John Bushman. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
He gets to be a man?
And a myth.
Everybody has to be animals. I thought this was just like you were the human. Everyone else had to be animals. I don't know about this anymore.
And the Tiger King himself, John Bushman.
Oh,
Okay.
God. Oh, God. Hold up.
Curse.
For those of you who don't know John, you can find John on the Critical X podcast whenever they end up posting those, which isn't very often, but when they do, boy, are they worth it. And also on his Bushfacts analytics for, I know most of you listening are probably going to be more casual, but for the competitive scene, John does all our numbers as far as like tracking win-losses and even more. Like that's kind of watering down what he does, but to simplify it, he tracks all the tournament data. Is that a good way to say that, John?
Yeah. The ELO rankings are probably the biggest thing that people have heard about.
Oh, right. So So you have a ranking system for the world as far as who's ranked in Legion, and so you've ranked everyone but me, I guess. At this point, I guess I'm not ranked.
Get good, sucker.
But that's okay. I suck at this game. It's fine. So what I wanted to do today, the reason we have John on, is tournament regulations for Legion for the competitive scene have changed. Some of these affect you if you're casual too for your regular games, but I just wanted to cover the new regulations. And the big change, John, is MOV, right? Margin of victory.
Yeah, so MOV...
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about it, guy.
Right. So MOV, they actually adapted pretty much what I came up with about a year ago as a replacement for strength of schedule. So as a tiebreaker, the first tiebreaker after wins losses used to be strength of schedule, which was 100% dependent just on how your opponents played the rest of their games. So you have zero impact over it.
Right. So let's say, for those of you who don't know, let's say you win your first game, right? And now you continue to go on winning, but your opponents that you beat the first game, he or she just loses the rest of his games. You're now going down as far as strength of schedule is concerned. And if you get a number of opponents that all do the same thing, then you could potentially, if you have a same 3-1 score as someone else, even your strength of schedule was lower because of what your opponents did, not because of what you did or didn't do.
Right. So it kind of ended up being like a feel bad when you're waiting. You've won 3 out of your 4 games, and you're just trying to make that top 8 cut, and it's 100% dependent just on how your last few opponents finish their games. So to fix that, it's not a perfect system, but they're putting the control back in the player's hands with margin of victory. So now margin of victory, instead of depending on your opponents, margin of victory will be you'll get a score every game, and it's the percent of victory points that you score out of all the victory points scored in that game. So
right. So they gave a good example, right? They said if player A has 3 victory points and player B has 2, then player A's MOV is 60% or 0.6, and player B's would then be 40% or 0.4.
Right. So you can go really aggressive and try and score and try and deny your opponent of all victory points, and that would get you a score of 100% for that game.
I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, it really changes, I think, a lot of it. I honestly, we just got this, right? And unless we play on TTS, we really don't have any chance to like implement this new system and see how it plays. So none of us really know what it's going to be like. But I was so sick of strength of schedule that anything, even if it may be slightly flawed, is
Right.
just going to be better, I think.
Right.
Well, you feel like you have more control over your games, right? Like, you can have a game where it's real close, and then you can have the next 3 games you just landslide. Sometimes intercept transmissions becomes like 10-2, and that kind of win actually boosts you up, right? Whereas otherwise, you just in strength of schedule is just you win or you lost, and then you hoped all your opponents won too, and that was you didn't really have any effect over it, right? It was just you hoped they won.
Exactly.
So this is this you can, depending on your playing, like hey, maybe I don't let them take the extra point because I can make my score a little bit better, or maybe I really try to go for that secret mission to like make the difference in my favor.
Well, yeah, and I think so John, I wanted to ask you this. Let's say in the past, if we tied, let's say we both got 2 victory points, right? Like, let's say it was probably moisture evaporators, right? Is a big one where you would tie out, then it would go down to a tiebreaker. So how does that work now? Let's say before the change, the current system was, let's say we both got 2 points or 4 points, whatever it was, from moisture evaporators at the end of the game. Now what happens?
Right. So this change doesn't affect how games are won or lost at all. If you're tied on victory points, you still go to points destroyed to determine who's the winner of that game. So in a lot of those scenarios, in a lot of the sabotage moisture evaporators, you'll end up 4-4, like Jay said. And then you will still have to determine who killed more points, who destroyed more points, and that will be the victor. Then your MOV will be scored, since you scored 4 and your opponent scored 4, you'll both get 50% MOV.
Okay, that's pretty good. Like that's
And then
better than losing, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so let me ask you this. What does the win-loss then do for you as far as the rankings, as far as the tournament goes continuing? So if we both got 50% MOV, that's the new system that's calculating how we move forward, but they have a loss and I have a win. How does that calculate into the system?
So a tournament win is still a tournament win, and a tournament loss is still a tournament loss. The MOV is only comes into play as a tiebreaker for tournament standings. So I guess that should be distinguished. It's not a tiebreaker for an individual game. It's only for tournament standings, for end of the tournament calculations.
Okay, so let me throw a scenario your way. You ready?
Yeah.
You and I play round 1. Okay, let's say you win, I lose, but we tie, right? We have 50. We each have 50%, but you maybe killed 10 more points worth of my guys. Okay.
Okay.
You then go on, and you win the next one, and then lose. Let's say you lose the third one, right? So you're 2-1, and then I go on and I win, and now I'm 2-1, and we're both 2-1. How is that determined if, let's say, we have the same MOV because of that 50%? Let's say, I don't know how it would work, but let's say I got 60-60 and then you got 60 or 40. Well, I guess it would never work that way, right? Now that I'm thinking about it out loud. Okay.
It could. 80 and 40. If I get 80 on a win, 40 on a loss.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So we could still be tied overall with MOV. We could have the same average MOV. And so in that scenario, FFG has a second tiebreaker, and they called it extended MOV.
Okay.
And for extended MOV, much like extended strength of schedule, you would take the average of all your opponent's MOVs, and that would be your next tiebreaker.
Okay. Right. So then they have, I think they still have strength of schedule in there.
Yes.
Right. and
Yes.
then they have extended strength of schedule, and then they have random.
Yes.
So there's what, four, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then random is the fifth option for tiebreakers after, if somehow that continually happened, where, I mean, the likelihood of that, I think, is pretty low, right? Like if you went through all 5 of those circuit breakers for the for a tie and you were still tied with
Jeez.
someone, yeah, I mean,
I
it
can
seems
tell you it will not happen. At Adepticon last year. So this was a huge deal all last year, and I'd been trying to implement the system for a long time. So we did an experiment with Adepticon. Adepticon was a grand championship, so it still very much used strength of schedule to break ties. But there was I was able to collect enough data to also analyze what margin of victory would have looked like.
okay.
So with that 64-man tournament, they had 4 rounds. There were 15 at the end of the day. There were 15 ties. No, rather, there were 47 ties in tournament points that had to be broken with strength of schedule. After that, there were still 48 ties with extended strength of schedule. And after extended strength of schedule, there were still 16 ties that had to be broken randomly.
Jeez.
Okay.
So 16 players had their tournament standing randomly assigned to them under strength of
Dude.
schedule.
Oh, that feels bad.
It does. So
Yeah,
I
that
did the
feels
same
bad.
thing. I took the same exact results with victory points and everything, and only 18 players were tied after margin of victory, and no players were tied after extended margin of victory. 0.
Okay, that's good. That's real good.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I think here's the thing. So I think a lot of you, here's my controversial statement of the day. So the people, my guess is the people who are going to bitch about this MOV thing are the same people who effing shoot for blue player, get the VAPs, and then just sit back and do nothing and make you like get aggressive and come at them. And that's who's going to complain about this, because they were happy enough to just. And I think that this makes you, in my opinion, it forces you to play the game.
100%. That is exactly, and I even included that in the article that I wrote up, that it discourages turtling.
So speaking of, today, when you're listening to this podcast simultaneously, we're going to be releasing a blog post on our website, thefifthtrooper.com, that John wrote about all this as well. So you can kind of read that while you're listening as well. So that was a good. But yeah, I think what it does. So for those of you who maybe have been a little on the fence about competitive, once all this nonsense is done and we can go back out into the world, I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a better opportunity to play, and it'll be more fun because it's going to require people to play. No more sitting back and waiting for your opponent to do something. You're going to have to be aggressive.
Yep.
Or at least
I
engage.
like it.
Yeah, so like the worst part is like sometimes intercept transmissions feels like don't even try for it until like 5 or 6 and try to get that supermarket sweep, like of
Yeah.
getting like 2 of them for 4 points. So you've kept one and then you've let the other guy get 2 twice, but you've just spent your game shooting and killing, and the other guy's been trying to actually play the objective. And then he gets punished at the end for that big swing on like and loses on MOV, which is a strategy, I suppose. But it feels like every time I play that, that's kind of the option. So it'd be nice to both people actually try to like fight for it.
Yeah, and it's interesting, because we can't really use MOV as that term anymore, right, Evan? Because that's how much points of your unit or your enemy unit points that you killed, right? MOV is now its own thing.
It's
So
it's like still the same kind of. But yeah, that's like
yeah,
unfortunately like other FFG games use that term kind of differently but meaning the same.
Right.
So it's the term's going to get thrown around a lot, and everyone's going to see MOV all over the place for all sorts of different things. But yeah, it's going to be MOV and Legion from now will be the margin of victory between the scoring of victory points between the two players.
Right.
I really, and I want to hear your guys' opinion on this too, but I firmly believe not going any further in the changes they made in the tournament document, but just between these two things, between the new MOV rule set and between vital assets, I think that this game is going to be completely different when we all get back to it, and I think it's for the better.
Oh, absolutely agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, it's like it's just different. Okay, so let's say end of the day, it for whatever reason it becomes worse, right? For a reason, it's just the wrong way to play. They can just change it again, right? Like it's not like there's not a giant stone tablet that they put a line through strength of schedule and tap this and be like, this is the way it will be until we sit. You know, right? Like it's just it's so we do it for a year, and let's say it turns out that after we play it, and we're like, you know what? Maybe we did like strength. They can just go back. Like it's a good to try a different thing, and then we got a long ways to see how it goes, right? So I think hot takes will be more relevant in a year after we've had a lot of like data going through of what people think about it, more than just like knee jerk reactions right now, right?
Yeah. So before we get to the other stuff, there was two little things that I thought were interesting. One is a lot of people have been making these comments about official legal products as if that's a new thing. Like they didn't make any, the only adjustment they made to legal products is while playing on an official FFG stream, you cannot use substitutions of any kind for components, and that's a Lucasfilm issue. But like the legal products thing has always been there. It's just that it's up to the organization, the organizer, and the head judge to decide whether they're going to be okay with like order tokens that aren't officially FFGs or acrylic aim tokens. Like that's always been a thing.
It has. I mean, it's right. Like there's been a lot of things that are come out and said and aren't always really strictly enforced. So I mean, like in any of our streams, we'll be using whatever
we want.
Yeah, honestly. So if you're on a Fifth Trooper stream, you can use bottle caps or whatever, as long as like both players agreed on it. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
But if you're on that, so the only time I know of an official FFG stream would be if you made like top at Worlds or something and they're streaming your game. That's the only time I ever remember seeing an official FF. Yeah, right. Possibly.
Right. I mean, this year
I've ever seen a real FFG stream. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
this year,
it's like us or another like local group.
I was gonna say, yeah, like this year, Adepticon was going to be us, so it wasn't even a legal official FFG stream, so you could use whatever you wanted. It's just I think they're prepping for the future of doing more streaming, and which is great. And so I think they have to put that in here. And here's the real reason why: it's not because they're being dicks; it's because they have to answer to a boss, which is Lucasfilm, and they have very strict requirements for what FFG can and cannot put on stream. And that's why a lot of times the streams, you see certain things and you don't see other things. They can say certain things. They can't say other things. Like it's a Lucasfilm issue. It's not a game issue.
No, I don't think they're doing it to be like malicious, right? That FFG's not doing it to like, hey, screw those Fifth Trooper guys and their cool tokens, right? It's more of a, hey, this is what was they.
We're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah. Like,
yeah. The other interesting thing, we'll throw back to last year's Adepticon, competitive tier tournaments, all players are required to put their randomized order tokens in an opaque container or bag.
Oh, snap.
So I had mixed feelings about that.
Little throwback.
Yeah. I like, look, man, like they called it the stack. If someone stacks them, shuffles them, stacks them, and I see it and I cut it, like, me as a player is not going to care, but officially, you need like a bag. I actually have I pre-ordered Animal Crossing and I got a little bell bag, which is like a little money bag for Animal Crossing. So my tokens will be going into that. Just money, baby.
Awesome.
Money bags, baby.
So let's talk about the other big change. And I think this is actually affects casual as well. If you're just playing on your kitchen table at home, this is going to affect you. They have created a line of sight silhouette template. This is for small base only, so any normal mini that doesn't have a notch in the base, this template is for them. Yes, that includes R2, and yes, that includes Wookiees. It's just a consistency, and here's why. It's not so that snipers, the kneeling sniper or R2 or Wookiees or anybody gets an advantage or disadvantage. Do you know what this is for? It's so you can do whatever the hell you want to do with your mini. And it doesn't matter. They're opening it up to the hobbyists. So now if you want Luke to be, you want to sculpt up Luke so that he's the Luke from Hoth, and you want to put his lightsaber differently, doesn't matter. You do whatever you want now because you're going to use this template.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it does benefit like Wookiees, right? Like, because man, it sucked. Wookiees had a tough time on the table because terrain was only so big sometimes, and Wookiees are just so big. Uh, but I mean, it does negatively impact like R2, sure. But then again, like, I don't know, man. There's plenty of line of sight blocking terrain. Like, just hide your dude, I guess. Again, I think it's cool. It's the Infinity model, where Infinity said, "Hey, like this model's because they have so many different models for the same unit. Like they do like seasons and cool stuff. So you won't. There's not one defined model for Infinity. Sometimes for units, especially heroes. So they make the silhouette, so it's just easier to be like." They could be using, I don't know, whatever, and then you put down the silhouette, be like, "Can you see a silhouette? Can it shoot? Yes, no." It just gets rid of that, a lot of that, like messy guesswork. And honestly, nothing felt really worse than playing like Boba Fett and someone sees the tip of his gun, or Luke and someone sees the tip of his lightsaber, and you take death, like, death damage from that, and that
Hmm.
always felt real bad.
I've had players so early on, I swapped out my Luke for a alternate sculpt Luke that had his lightsaber down, sure, but it also just looked cooler. And I legit had players complain to me that they couldn't see the tip of my lightsaber anymore because I have a different Luke.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm done with that. So it's like, look, man, like it's
Yeah,
the line of sight thing is cool and bad, right? There's times when like, well, I can see his foot, so I guess I'm gonna fire all like that stinks sometimes, right? The game shouldn't be that fiddly. So now, if you really don't want your unit to be seen, you say to the other player, you put the silhouette behind him, and you say, "Hey, from your snowtroopers, can you see my silhouette when I'm moving my guy?" Right? That's a completely, absolutely acceptable thing to ask, right? Because
Yep.
there's the silhouette's it. So like, can you see the silhouette here? No, we agree they can't see it. Yep, cool. He's done moving, right? Like that makes it easy. Done. No more like my biggest gripe is like turning your guns away from enemies.
yeah.
Yeah, I was just
Like
going to bring that up.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, oh, my Z6. No, he's actually going to point at the wall because you don't want to see the tip of his. I'm like, that doesn't. I always get caught in Legion because I point my guns facing the enemy because this is a war game, right? Like we're supposed to be shooting at the enemy. It just gets very frustrating. So to have that just solve a lot of those issues for me, cool. I'm Gucci. I'm good. Let's go.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it makes it faster and easier to play the game. Like, I think MOV and this new silhouette system makes it easier to play the game. And I think they did it right by adding one silhouette and just saying, okay, it's just for the non-notched minis, right? And this is how we're going to do it. It's this rectangle, and there's a little line of sight marker, and that's how we're doing it. And I think because I know I saw people like, well, they should make different ones for Wookiees and different ones for R2. No, they shouldn't. They should make one, because then it gets way complicated. And now I got to bring 30 templates just to play this game. And I mean, and that was the problem with Warhammer Fantasy, and I know 40K tried it too. Like, dude, how many friggin' templates do I have to bring just to play this
Yeah.
stupid game? Like, let me just play.
Exactly.
Like, oh, go ahead, Bush.
People underestimate the value of simplicity. I've
Yeah.
been seeing it a lot in today and yesterday, both with the MOV and with the silhouettes. There's a ton of value into keeping things simple. It increases your enjoyment in the game. Like Jay said, you don't have to bring 100 things just to play. And with the MOV being that simple, like, yeah, it's not a perfect system, but you're not having to pull out a chart and look look across rows and columns to find what your score should be based on X and Y criteria.
Yeah.
No, agreed.
Yeah, and then so the other big change, and I don't know if it's a big change, but the other change they made was terrain guidelines. They added terrain guidelines. I love these. This is exactly what all of us at these major tournaments, any of us who have helped set up, John, you included, and Brendan and LJ, and anyone who's set up these tournaments, that we've been doing this anyways because we knew what. I think playing the game all the time, we all knew what the game needed as far as terrain and have been doing this. But now that they legitimately are placing it out there as part of the guidelines, it's no longer an argument because, like, I would see people say, like, I think we've talked about this on our podcast before where we've been like, dude, you need 35% at a like of terrain. 25% does not do it. Like, you need 35%, maybe 40. So now they're saying minimum 25% of the table covered in terrain with a maximum of 35%. I think that's perfect.
Yeah, that's fine because you don't. Again, like I love a lot of terrain, but you got to think like you shouldn't punish someone who brings a vehicle, right? Vehicles shouldn't just never get to play because there's so much. But on the other hand, you want some open air. You want like objectives to be risky, right?
Yeah.
So you want like enough where there's open areas where there's like it's a risk to try to run by that area. Like there's there's a lot of cool like thoughts and speculation on how to build a good table. But no, I'm fine with that. Like actually just laying out saying, hey, we recommend you have like these two line of sight blockers being this high, these couple being this high. And so when you're trying to build a table and you don't know what you're doing, aka me, you can actually just go by the guide and try it out and be like, all right, cool. All right, like this seems fine.
So I would say real quick to that, another plug for us. If you go to our blog, Brad Nerfley from the Discord wrote a great article about building a table and designing a table for terrain and for all the different deployment zones. This was before Vital Assets. But, with all the deployment zones, and I think it plays nice with these guidelines as well. So definitely check that out when you're looking at building tables, which it looks like based on all the social media and all the groups that a lot of you are building tables because we got a lot of time on our hands. The other nice thing, Evan, back to your point about vehicles, they did put in here, any medium or large pieces of terrain should be roughly placed beyond range 1 of each other. That's great for vehicles, right? That's what that's for.
Yeah, that's that used to be, that was an OG rule.
Yeah.
I'm back when we were doing the first Nova for Legion. I brought out I brought out a bunch of we were setting up the tables and I brought out a bunch of range rollers and I'm like, well, it can't be closer than 1 because that's what the book says. And then when you realize you only had like 3 pieces of terrain anyway, it didn't really matter. But yeah, that was an OG rule. Like, can't things be closer? But yeah, like I love dense tables, but take our Jeddah City board. If you build it if you put everything on there, it gets like tanks just don't get to do anything. Whereas some other boards now can I don't know, it's good. I'm kind of rambling there a little bit, but no, it's good. I like it.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't feel like there was. I mean, those are the major changes, right? Those are the big ones.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
I think the other changes were stuff like how to write down. Like, I brought Commander Luke versus Operative Luke on your army list and stuff, but that's pretty straightforward.
They did increase the round limit to 30 minutes. Or 30 extra minutes. It's 2.5 hours now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's, cool. I mean, I think most of us were doing that anyways. That's probably why I glossed over that one.
Yeah, how we used to do 15 minutes before, 15 minutes setup and then 15 minutes after the last call, after time call to finish the round, which is kind of what they do now. They said it's not diced down anymore to finish the round. Though I still think a time should be put on that because it's depending on how pace of play is for some players. You want to keep that relatively short so the day can keep moving,
Yeah, and I think TOs are still gonna just take their own opinion on that anyways.
Yeah. I was a little nervous when I saw that. I'm like, because some guys, they get, if both players have a slow pace of play and they're both cool with that and they get to round 3 and time gets called, there's just not enough time in the day to have them do like finish the round 4, right? So I think that's good that they like we'll just have to like free think that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, overall, those are a bunch of good changes. Like I said, this is going to be a crazy game once we all get back. And and all the new units, which I guess update, if you haven't seen, most of the units, shocker, have been pushed back to like July or later. And so, I mean, I think we saw that coming, right, with all non-essential being shut down pretty much everywhere in the States here. That was something that was coming down the pike. But I mean, I don't know if it's good or bad. It is what it is. Nothing we can do about it, right?
They're just
Well,
waiting for me to get back.
Yeah,
There you go.
that's it. I mean, it's just what you're gonna do. Like, what can you do? Like this is uh, extenuating circumstances. Man, I want Cad Bane like right now. I don't want to wait for him, but July is when I'm gonna get him. Uh, so yeah, it's like it's what it is. Like a couple. I've been looking at this kind of Fallout miniatures game, and I went to their website, and they're like, "Yeah, our warehouse is shut down till like maybe after May." Just because they're out in London right now. So like yeah,
Mm.
it's just we just not even gonna make anything until May. It's like, oh, okay. Right, like it's
Yeah.
everyone's suffering. It's not just even though we live in our own little bubble and it feels like it's like Legion just keeps getting hammered, like well, GW just shut down too, right? Like the whole website, everything just down until this all kind of goes over. So everyone's suffering from this.
Yeah. Everyone is suffering. Thanks, Evan.
What? What?
Everyone is
What?
suffering.
Everyone's
Yeah,
suffering from delays. It's just what it is.
yeah. I will say the other thing too that has happened, just as like, hey, future knowledge, is that there's been a lot of price increase in shipping as well, especially out of Asia. So like, if you want something shipped, like the price has jumped exponentially on that stuff, which has been crazy too. So I would suspect that we may see another price jump in product for FFG probably in the next 6 months, I would guess.
I believe someone we knew wrote an article about that a long time ago.
That was me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it was due to something else and not terrible
So
plague virus.
yeah, no. So I wrote that. So the article I wrote was about the tariff increase,
Yeah,
and everyone was like pooping on me and like, no, it's not going to happen. You're calculating it wrong. And then when they announced all these new units with the new price hike, I was like, oh yeah, how's that working for you?
you
I
just
mean,
got
it's
Chalansky'd.
good. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a business, right? Like, as much as it is a game for all of us and it's a hobby. And I know, like, I've seen this too lately, like a lot of people complaining a little bit about the price of the units. You clearly have never played another miniatures game, because it's actually still reasonable even with the recent price hike.
Yeah, I mean, you can walk out of a store. I mean, a lot of the OG units are still like what, $25. It's
Yeah.
the new sprue ones that are like 35. But even that is like the thing about like let's say you need phase twos because phase twos are a point of concern for some people. You really tops you need 2 to 3 of those tops, and
I
then to
need
that point,
6.
yeah, you need 6. Just run a full 6. So let's say you do even buy 6. Like buying 6 boxes of Space Marines. Those are being 50 a piece is not even enough. Like that's not even close to enough to fill out like full 10-man squads because you get maybe 5 to 10 in some of those boxes,
Yeah.
and you generally want to run 10 of 10-man squads with a heavy gun. Hope that that bit came in that box so you have to buy another model kit to take the gun out to put it on your guy, so that's dead. Like it's fine. It's fine. Like after even looking at some of the uh, like the bits that people look for to make like there's a popular unit called Smash Captain who's a like a Space Marine captain with a hammer and a shield. But Space Marine boxes, like the captains, don't generally come with a hammer and a shield, so you have to get them off other model sets. And if you don't, own those or have a friend who does, you're buying these other model sets just to take one weapon off a sprue, and that's $50 or so. That's just not even. That's it. You
Oh
bought it for a
God.
hammer, right? Like, yeah, it's crazy. So like, the model looks cool. Like, I'll give you that. But like, I get it. Like, I didn't want a price hike either. But it's still, you're still relatively, we're doing okay still. When a box of units hits $50 for like 5 models, I'll be upset.
So John, I don't know if I ever asked you this. What did you do any miniature stuff before Legion?
I was real into X-Wing for about
Mm,
3 years,
okay.
um, and I even play tested for quite a bit of X-Wing. And just when 2.0 hit, it was just too much for me to want to switch. And then Legion came out at the same time, and I got hooked on Legion.
Mm.
Also, the games, X-Wing games, like they were fun, and honestly, it's been a few years that I do kind of miss it. Um, they felt repetitive. I felt like when I saw my list and my opponent's list, I knew what I had to do, and then it was just up to dice and if I could fake out my opponent.
Yeah, Evan, what do you think about that?
Well, end of 1.0, yes. End of 1.0, before you even put any of your cards on the table, I would look in your tray, see your ships, and know exactly what you're playing. Like, I didn't even need to ask for a list. It's just, that's what it was. 2.0 now, it's, so to be the contrarian, I think it's quite different, especially with the fact that people like crazy stuff works in 2.0 sometimes. Actually, most of the time. So people can make janky, crazy stuff and you just don't expect it. But yeah, like the problem with X Wing is it can feel like a bad dice roll can just kind of blow your game and it doesn't really feel like there's ways to come back. Where in Legion, you're rolling so many dice over a longer period of time that if you have a couple bad rolls, like a couple blank outs and some core units, that may stink, but the dice will swing like right the bell curve of dice. Like you'll get
Right.
that's your low time, so you're bound to get your high time, and then like that can swing your way. So no, I agree. Where like sometimes it feels like one or two like clutch bad, like a clutch roll for him, then a bad roll for you, feels real bad. But I really do enjoy 2.0 right now. I mean, heck, I'm playing Han and Luke, and it's a good list, and that makes me happy that like named movie characters are back in Luke in an X-wing is back in X-wing. Go figure. But no, I get it though. Like in a swarm, you don't joust a swarm. Swarm wants to joust you. Ace is gonna dodge you. But no, I can see where you're coming from on it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the big stuff going on with Legion right now. Other than that, I don't know. Not a lot of Legion stuff going on. I guess Invader League is starting soon, right? So
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's gonna have some units legal, right? That
yeah,
aren't normally what
Arc
the stop.
Troopers,
Yeah.
BX. Yeah, I think
yeah,
the
stuff that's
ATRT and
we're not even
SCAP.
gonna see. Yes,
Yeah.
stuff we won't see till September. Yeah, that you can see that in Invader League. That'll be good. So I guess maybe like before we would talk about Invader League or talk about playing on Tabletop Simulator, and not a lot of people did. Well, I'm assuming that you're going to want to now since you can't play Real Legion for a little while. So yeah, you should check out if you haven't Tabletop Simulator, and if you got a tournament itch and you want to play, Invader League is starting in a week or two. Signups are, I think, and so you should check it out if you want to play. It's all online, all around the world. I've played before. I have not decided if I'm doing it this year. What about you guys? Are you guys playing?
Yeah, I am absolutely going to be playing, so long as I could line up game schedules and all that.
That was my issue. The year I did it was like like it was I can only be free this certain time. The guy I'm playing works nights, so we can play on like maybe a Sunday. Something would come up, and we couldn't play, and it was just like really hard for me to line up a game. Or like I got matched up with some gentlemen in Australia, and we both just decided that it just wasn't going to work, and we more or less like He's like, nah, man, you just take the win. I'm like, nah, man, you just take the win. I don't care. Like, it just got unfortunate, like trying to line up times. But I really like. I'm thinking about it again. It was fun, and depending on how long quarantine goes through, it might just be my way to get some Legion in a more competitive fashion. But I don't know. I think I'm pretty excited. Cad Bane's legal. We've got one of his cards, so I'm in, baby. That 2 pips, all I need to ride it out. And his punching gauntlets, that's all we got. So it's terrible to run him like that, I think, but I might just do it for the lulz, just to get some different cards in my CIS hand besides Grievuses and generics. But no, I'm interested. So I think I'll at least because you need a team, right? Is it a team of 4?
It's not a team.
Oh, this isn't a team.
No, that's the Evan-based team league.
Oh, gotcha.
You'll get put in pods, I think, of 5 people, and you'll like round robin within that pod.
Oh, okay. All right. Maybe that's even easier for me then. So yeah, I'll at least sign up. Worst case, I just can't make anything, and people get free wins off me. So
right.
Congratulations.
My back to the scheduling thing. Like my problem in the past has always been scheduling. Right. Like I'd be like, yeah, I can do this time, and people are like, yeah, I can't. I can do Saturday at like 2 a.m. and I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. But now I think with the quarantine and everything like that, I think there's a better chance that someone can play at noon on a Tuesday now than there was before. So
no, that's good. I mean, I think you'll see a large, probably one of the largest signups for it right now, right?
Yeah, we're hoping.
Yeah, that'd be great. I just in the course of this podcast, I've changed my mind and I think I'm going to play. I was on the fence. I wasn't going to play, but I'm going to play. Let's do this. Let's do this, Fifth Trooper.
Well, like let's say, worst case, you can't make it. It's not like whatever, right? It's not like you paid. We went to Adepticon and you go to your event, and for whatever reason, like, sorry, man, you can't play. You just spent a hotel room, the ticket in here, right? You're only out. You're like a time or a game. You're not out like thousands of dollars.
Right.
That's great. Yeah, I'm in.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it's that'll be interesting. That'll be something to do for a while. And I don't know. Other than that, you guys got anything else you want to talk about?
I think I'm good.
Right now,
it's good. What do you got, Evan?
Right now, I don't know. Has anyone tried Krabek's AI mode he created? Did you get a chance to try that yet, Jay?
I heard about it, but I have not looked into it.
I haven't tried it. I know Krabs was talking about doing a stream at some point here. I probably go check his YouTube channel, but no, a couple people said it was interesting. But I haven't had a chance.
It's funny because I brought up this Fallout miniature game. I really only started looking at it because it had a single player and a co-op mode for a miniature game, and then right when I was looking at that, he dropped his AI mode for Legion, and I'm like, oh well, that's what I really want, right? Yeah. I want to be able to play Legion like right now, especially just even on the table, just like basic AI, like if I don't see an enemy, I move to see enemy, then shoot kind of thing. There's a really popular mod in X-Wing called Heroes of the Atari Cluster, where it was everybody got to be a rebel ship, and Empire was all AI controlled by like different. This is how you fly the ships, and there's a whole campaign people made for it. So and it was all cooperative. So you actually got to play together against like a fake opponent kind of thing, but and still in that tabletop fashion. So you still get that kind of like I prefer that than like say a video game kind of thing. So I'm interested to see how well his AI goes, and maybe hopefully maybe I can give it a shot this weekend to see what I think about it, because I'm in, man. If you put the work in to make it like even just to get like, even if it's a real basic game where you're just kind of pushing guys and throwing dice, like I'm kind of in on that right now, because after playing TTS I've been jonesing for like the real thing to play like Legion and move my models around. But until then, I really didn't like. You can always fishbowl, right? Where you make the best move for each side, and you try to think how it would turn out. But to have like something guide you, so it feels more like a game instead of just you just kind of playing like chess by yourself, would be cool.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look. I've been I've had a lot of other things going on that I've been busy with building some terrain, and I just actually I'm gonna probably do a photo dump on our Facebook page pretty soon here. I built an indoor table, and then I just got a bunch of terrain in from legionterrain.com for our city streets feed table. So that I just started putting that all up. I'm going to take pictures, and I'll put a bunch of dump out on the Facebook page of terrain images.
Cool.
That seems to be the thing to do in lockdown.
Yeah, right. Like, look at all this cool stuff I built. So maybe when I get to play, it'll be cooler.
Right.
I mean,
if we ever have a Northeast Open, we're going to have plenty of terrain.
Geez, that's on a blade's edge right now, isn't it? Huh?
Yeah.
Like, as long as everything goes projected, I think we'll be fine. So
we just won't be able to publicize it until I know for sure, and then no one will end up coming.
Right.
It'll be great.
it'll be so next weekend we're doing the Northeast Open. If anybody's you're around town and you're not going to nationals, here you go, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, so funny story, everyone. Right when this all hit the fan, I was about to announce Northeast Open, and so then all this hit the fan, and so I didn't announce Northeast Open. So we'll see. I'm glad it happened before I announced it because we're not out anything yet. But we'll see. I'll make adjustments on the fly once we learn more about this, but I don't know, man. I don't know how long this is lasting, and I don't want to pretend like I'm smart enough to figure it out. So we'll see.
It's real life, but cool. We
got hate real life.
I hate it.
Evan.
I hate it.
I'm going back into my VR cube here, and
gonna Ready Player One it and just leave Rachel and all of us outside. Like,
yeah, that's right.
Hey, you coming out, bud? You doing okay?
No. I sent it to our group, but for everyone listening, I found this chair that like hooks up and like rotates, and it's got like foot pedals, and you put the VR in. I told the group, it was like, yeah, I'm ready to go full Ready Player One right now.
Just drop me into Skyrim. I'll see you next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Hook up an IV.
Yeah. Hey, it's a good way to lose weight, man. I guess. Don't eat, don't move. Just atrophy. Perfect. You got it.
I didn't need these limbs anyways.
Well, cool.
All right. Well, cool. Thanks, John, for joining us. That was, I think that was some good overview of the new rules. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. One final thing. If you're wondering what's going on at the Fifth Trooper, if you go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Fifth Trooper, you can see we have a schedule pinned to the top. We're trying to minimize all the community garbage of posting 10 times a day to get our shit out there. So you could just check it out on our Facebook page, and that'll be how you see our schedule for the week. So cool. Check that out.
Very cool.
Excellent.
All right, everybody. Talk to you next week.
Everyone, stay rad.
Join us next week for another edition of the Fifth Trooper podcast.
This has been a Fifth Trooper production.